Welcome class. Today I am going to talk about infectious disease epidemiology, certain definitions and selected concepts. Now, infectious disease epidemiology is very important for understanding the change in the pattern of communicable diseases or infectious diseases, for the discovery of new infections, also that certain chronic diseases might have infective origin. Now, for any kind of epidemiological activity like disease reporting, measurement of mortality and morbidity, clear-cut definitions of the terms of infections, epidemic and surveillance etc. are required. So, this forms the basis of the importance of today's class. First of all, what do we understand by infection? Infection means the entry and multiplication of an infectious agent in the body of man or animals. It elicits a response either in the form of an immune response or disease. Infection may or may not result in disease. There are levels of infection like colonization. Colonization means denoting the presence of an organism in the specific part of the body with or without causing a disease. Example, Staph aureus in the skin and normal nasopharynx. Then subclinical or inapparent infection. It refers to inapparent asymptomatic infection or an infection that has a mild course that it does not alert the patient enough to consult with the physician. Example, common cold, urinary tract infection in women, etc. Latent infection. It is inactive though continuing to infect, which remains capable of producing symptoms in sometimes later, like virus of herpes simplex. Clinical or symptomatic infection. An infection by a microorganism which results in some sort of expression of lack of health, example disease, may be described as a symptomatic infection. Example, malaria, typhoid, etc. Now, contamination. The presence of an infectious agent on the surface of the body or in the clothes, bedding, toys, surgical instrument or other inanimate things or substances including water, milk and food. So, presence of the infectious agent on the surface of the body or any fomites etc. is called contamination. It does not imply a carrier state. Pollution means presence of an offensive agent but not necessarily an infectious matter in the environment. Now, infestation means lodgement, development, reproduction of arthropods on the surface of the body of persons or animals or in clothing. Example, lice, itch mite, etc. So, it is lodgement, development, reproduction of arthropods on the surface of the body of persons and animals or in clothing of persons. Example, lice, itch mite, etc. The term also may be applied to describe invasion of the gut by parasitic worms. Example, ascariasis. Now, host. Host is a person or animal including birds and arthropods that afford subsistence or lodgement to the infectious agent under natural conditions, not under experimental conditions but under natural conditions. It affords subsistence or lodgement to the infectious agent. Host may be obligate host, that is, the organism can survive in the specific host only, like man in measles and typhoid fever. Definitive host means the host in which the parasite passes its sexual cycle is primary or definitive host, like mosquito for malaria. Intermediate host means the host in which the parasite is present in larval or asexual state is secondary or intermediate host, like man for malaria. Now, transport host means the carrier in which the organisms remains alive but does not undergo development. Now, what do we mean by disease? Disease means any deviation from normal functioning or the state of complete physical mental well-being, that is disease. Now, disease may be infectious disease, which is a clinically manifest disease of man or animals due to infection. It can be contagious disease, a disease that is transmitted through contact like scabies, cholera, leprosy. Communicable disease, an illness due to a specific infectious disease or an illness due to a specific infectious agent or its toxic products capable of being directly or indirectly transmitted from man to man, animal to man, or from environment to man or animal. So, communicable disease means it has the capability of transmission from man to man, animal to animal, or from environment to man or animal. So, this is called as a communicable disease. So, infectious disease means a clinically manifest disease of animals or mans due to infection. Contagious means transmitted through contact. Communicable disease means which has the capability of being directly or indirectly being transmitted. What is the epidemic? So, this part is very important. Let us understand what is epidemic. Epi means upon, demos means people. So, epidemic means the unusual occurrence in a community or region of a disease, specific health related events clearly in excess of expected frequency. Unusual occurrence in a community or region of a disease or specific health related events clearly in excess of expected frequency is epidemic. So, the community or region in which the epidemic is occurring, it must be specified specified precisely. You must precisely say about the period and the number of cases which are occurring. The number of cases indicate the presence of an epidemic varies according to the agent, size, type of the population exposed, previous experience or lack of exposure to the disease. What do we understand by expected frequency? Expected frequency means amount of disease occurring in the past in absence of the epidemic. A related term is called as an outbreak. Simply, it is an epidemic which is localized in nature. So, epidemic involves a broader area, outbreak is a localized epidemic. Now, there are three types of epidemic based on the time trends and source of exposure, like common source epidemic, which can be two types, single exposure type or multiple exposure type. Propagated epidemic, which can be propagated via person to person, arthropod vector or animal reservoir, and slow epidemic, which is the term reserved for the non-communicable diseases or the modern epidemic. Now, common source epidemic. The first type, the single exposure epidemic, is also called as point source epidemic. The exposure to the disease agent is brief and essentially simultaneous. The resultant cases all develop within one incubation period of the disease. So, what is incubation period? The time period from the entry of the infectious agent to the development of signs and symptoms. So, in case of point source epidemic, the exposure to the disease agent is brief and simultaneous. So, all the resultant cases will develop within one incubation period of the disease. Now, what will the epidemic curve look like? The epidemic curve will rise and fall rapidly with no secondary waves. The epidemic tends to be explosive and there is clustering of cases within a narrow interval of time. Now, please look at the following curve. This is an epidemic curve. Epidemic curve essentially means frequency of new cases over time based on the date of onset of the disease. Epidemic curve is a graphical representation showing the frequency of new cases over time based on date of onset of the disease. Here we can see in case of a point source epidemic, the graph rises steeply and falls steeply. And we here also see another term called as a median incubation period. So what is median incubation period? It is actually median incubation period or time is the time required for 50% of the cases to develop following the exposure to the primary case. What is a primary case? It is the first case which is occurring in the community. So, these diseases, these type of epidemics are mostly occur due to exposure to infectious agent, like classically due to food poisoning. They can also result due to any type of environmental contamination by industrial chemicals or pollutants. So, this example is like that of Bhopal gas tragedy and Minamata disease from Japan, resulting in consumption of fish containing high concentration of methyl mercury, which you must be knowing. Now, please carefully look at this graph. This is an epi curve. It shows the example of a point source epidemic due to hepatitis A outbreak. Now, the incubation period of hepatitis ranges from 15 to 50 days, average of 30 days. So, you can very well see from here the rise and fall of the new cases occur within a range of about 30 days span. That is from 29th April 2004 till the last case is occurring on 21st of May 2004. So, this is an example of how the epi curve will look in case of point source epidemic. Now, basically by looking at these different types of epi curve and knowing about the incubation period of the disease, we can get an idea of what the probable source can be. This will be dealt further in your other classes on investigation of epidemic. Now, next type is common source, continuous or repeated exposure epidemic. Now, here the exposure from the same source may be prolonged, continuous or repeated or intermittent. The epidemic continues over more than one incubation period. So, the epi curve will rise to a peak and then fall, but the cases will not occur within the single incubation period. It implies that there is an ongoing source of contamination going on. The downslope of the curve may be very sharp if the common source is removed, or gradual if the outbreak is allowed to exhaust itself. Often, this type of epidemics start as a common source or point source epidemic and continues as a propagated epidemic. So, main point here is that the epidemic will continue over a period more than one incubation period. The curve will rise and fall, but the cases will not occur within a span of one incubation period as the exposure is continuing. The slope of the curve, down slope of the curve may be sharp if you suddenly remove the source of contamination, but or if it is gradual if you allow the epidemic to exhaust itself by gradual depletion of the susceptibles. Now, this is another classical example of cholera outbreak which occurred in Broad Street area of London in 1854. This one was investigated by Dr. John Snow. Now, you can see the outbreak here lasted for more than a single incubation period. That is, incubation period for cholera is 1 to 3 days, and the span you can very well see from the graph lasted for more than single incubation period. This implies even though after the start of the outbreak the residents began to flee from where the outbreak has erupted, the outbreak lasted because of the ongoing source of infection. In this case, it was the Broad Street pump. Another examples can be of a prostitute as a common source of infection in gonorrhea outbreak, since she will infect her clients over a period of time and there is no explosive rise in the number of cases. Or it can be the number of children affected due to a faulty nationally distributed brand of vaccine. Now, next type is the propagated epidemic. Here also it is mostly infectious origin, transmitted either from person to persons, like epidemic can be of epidemics of polio or hepatitis A, from arthropod vector like in case of malaria, or animal reservoir like in case of toxoplasmosis. The epidemic usually shows a gradual rise and tails off over a much longer period. Often they have a series of successively larger peaks. These are called as the secondary waves. It will continue till all the susceptibles are depleted. Now, this is an example of a propagated outbreak of measles. You can see the epidemic here began with a single index case who infected a number of other individuals. One or more of the people infected in the initial wave infected a group of people who become a second wave of infection. So, here the transmission is person to person rather than from a common source. So, we can here also see a series of successively larger peaks or secondary waves can be seen, which are one incubation period apart. The successive waves tend to involve more and more people until a pool of susceptible people is exhausted, either through formation of herd immunity or proper control measures implemented in the form of vaccination or treatment, etc. This is an ideal example. However, in reality, all this epidemic curve which I have shown might not produce this type of classical pattern. Now, this is what happens in propagated epidemics. So, initially the primary case is the first case, tries to infect all the susceptible population. When the epidemic is at the height, that is the curve has reached its peak, there is also development of most number of equal number of almost susceptible population and immune population, and then at the termination place the susceptible number has decreased either due to increase in immunity, increase in the control measures, or due to death of the affected persons, and so finally the epidemic dies down. So, this is what happens in a propagated epidemic. Now, periodic fluctuations can be of two types, like seasonal trends. Characteristic of many communicable disease like measles, which is mostly seen in the early spring, upper respiratory infection, seasonal rise during winter, GI infection in summer. Certain non-infectious disease also like sunstroke, hay fever, snakebite exhibit seasonal variation. They may be related to changes in the environmental conditions like temperature, humidity, change in rainfall, vector biodynamics, etc. So, these are seasonal trends, that is occurring certain diseases occurring in certain seasons. Next is another type of periodic fluctuations like cyclic trends. Some diseases occur in cycles over short period of times, like infectious diseases like measles in the pre-vaccination era occurred, major peaks appeared every 2 to 3 years. Rubella occurred every 6 to 9 years. Why this happens? Because of the naturally occurring variations in herd immunity. So, in order for an epidemic to occur, there must be build up of susceptibles. Why this build up will occur? Because the the herd immunity will gradually wane off over this period of say 3 years. Then when the disease occurs, it will occur in an epidemic proportion. So in case of cyclic trends also might occur in case of non-communicable diseases like road traffic accidents might occur in case of in Saturdays, weekends in US. This has been seen. So diseases occurring cycles over a specific short period of time, and the first one what we thought was of certain season specific, mainly due to the cause was mainly due to the change in environmental conditions, and here the cause in case of cyclic trends is due to the variations in herd immunity and accumulation of susceptibles. Now long term or secular trends implies the consistent tendency to change in a particular direction or a definite movement in one direction over a long time. Example, coronary heart disease, lung cancer, diabetes mellitus, all these showed consistent upward trend in the developed countries during the past 50 years with a decline of infectious diseases like TB, typhoid fever, diphtheria, etc. The term slow on modern epidemics is usually related to this type of non-communicable diseases. Okay, now we move on to the term an example. Please look at this graph carefully. This graph shows the epidemic curve for an outbreak of Salmonella. Salmonella has an incubation period of 1 to 3 days. Now try to answer this question. What type of epidemic curve is this? Is it a point source epidemic, a continuous source epidemic, propagated epidemic, or you think it as something else? So may I look back? So what is the curve? Here you can see the number of cases is rising and falling. All the cases occurred within the single incubation period. So this is consistent with a point source epidemic. And also I told the nature of the agent. This is a Salmonella infection, probably due to a food poisoning. Now next let us move on to what do we understand by endemic. Endemic means, N means in, demos people. Endemic refers to constant presence of a disease or an infectious agent within a geographical area or a population group without importation from outside. It denotes the expected or usual frequency of the disease within such area or population. An endemic disease may burst into epidemic when the conditions favor. Like common cold is endemic because it is always present in some form or the other in people. Now hyperendemic means the disease constantly present at high incidence or prevalence rate is and affecting all age groups equally. And what is holoendemic? Holoendemic means the high level of infection beginning in early life is present, affecting most of the children, leading to a state of equilibrium such that the adult population shows the evidence of the disease much less commonly than the children. This is holoendemic. In hyperendemic, constant high presence in all age groups equally. But in holoendemic, the child population is affected, but in the adult population there is an equilibrium. Now what do we understand by sporadic disease? Sporadic, the term means scattered about. Here the cases occur irregularly, haphazardly from time to time and generally infrequently. They might show little or no connection with each other, nor a recognizable common source of infection may be there. So one or two cases here and there may be present. This is called as sporadic disease. So there might not be any time, place, person specific distribution or time, place, person correlation might not be there in case of sporadic diseases like polio, tetanus, herpes zoster, many zoonotic disease, etc. Now an important term, pandemic. which you are hearing quite frequently nowadays. So pandemic is an epidemic usually affecting a large proportion of population, occurring over a wide geographic area. For a disease to occur as a pandemic, there are certain characteristics of the infectious agent which must be there. That is, the agent must be able to infect humans. Secondly, it must cause disease in the humans. As I told, all infections might not result in disease, but in case of pandemic, it should cause the disease, and it must spread easily from human to human. So pandemic is nothing but it is a form of epidemic affecting a large proportion of population, human population, occurring over a wide geographic area, that is across nations and continents. Example is a famous example of Black Death, a plague which spread across Asia and Europe in the middle of 14th century. The H1N1 pandemic of 2009, Spanish flu of 1918-19, and the recent COVID pandemic of 2019-20. So these are examples of pandemics. Now what do we mean by exotic disease? Exotic means the diseases which are imported to a country in which they usually do not occur otherwise, like rabies in UK, epidemic polyarthritis to visitors to Fiji. Now zoonosis means an infection or infectious disease transmissible under natural conditions from vertebrate animals to man. They can be enzootic and epizootic. Which examples of rabies, plague, bovine TB, anthrax, brucellosis, etc. Now let's see some other terms related to zoonosis. What do we understand by anthropozoonosis? Anthropozoonosis. These infections are transmitted to man from vertebrate animals. Example, rabies, plague, hydatid diseases. Zooanthroponosis. Zooanthroponosis. These are transmitted from man to vertebrate animal. Example, human TB in cattle. Amphizoonosis is the diseases which can be transmitted either ways, from man to lower vertebrate and vice versa. Example, Trypanosoma cruzi and S. japonicum. Next is, what do we understand by epizootic? Epizootic is an outbreak of a disease in an animal population. Example, anthrax. Enzootic is an endemic occurring in animals. Example, anthrax, rabies, brucellosis, bovine TB, endemic typhus and tick typhus. What do we understand by ornithic? Ornithic means outbreak of or epidemic of a disease in bird population. Now moving on to a separate group of concepts, that is nosocomial infection, opportunistic infection and iatrogenic disease. Now nosocomial infection. It is the disease or infection acquired by a person as a result of being in a hospital. The disease is not present, or the person was not in the incubation period of the disease at the time of admission, or the disease is not a residual of an infection acquired during a previous admission episode. It includes infections which are acquired in the hospital but appearing after discharge, and also such infection being present among the healthcare staff and other staff. Example, infection of surgical wounds, hepatitis B and urinary tract infections. What do we understand by opportunistic infection? It denotes the infection caused due to the reduction in host immunity by an organism that is not normally pathogenic to the body. Usually occurs in immunocompromised conditions. Organisms like cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex, toxoplasma, mycobacterium tuberculosis, M. avium complex, pneumocystis, etc. Conditions where opportunistic infections occur, like AIDS, carcinomas, long-term use of steroids, etc. What is iatrogenic infection? Iatrogenic infections are any untoward or adverse consequence of a preventive, diagnostic or therapeutic regimen or procedure that causes impairment, handicap, disability or death resulting from a physician's professional activity or from the activity of other health professional which was preventable. Otherwise, simply meaning doctor generated. But in strict terms, it is not only doctor generated, it can be from other health professionals also, or any professional activity also which was preventable. So, any untoward adverse consequence of a preventive, diagnostic or therapeutic regimen or procedure causing impairment, handicap, disability or death resulting from a professional activity which was preventable. Example, reaction to penicillin and other immunizing agents, aplastic anemia following chloramphenicol, etc. So, for preventing iatrogenic infection, a common procedure we apply while before giving any IV antibiotics in the hospital. You might have known that we do a proper skin test. So, before doing a skin test, any IV antibiotics are usually not given. So, this is a method to prevent iatrogenic infections. Now, very important term is surveillance. Surveillance means to watch over with attention, authority and suspicion. This is the literal meaning. Definition is, it is the continuous scrutiny of factors that determine the occurrence and distribution of a disease and other condition of ill health. Continuous scrutiny of the factors that determine the occurrence and distribution of a disease and other conditions of ill health. The surveillance program can be epidemiological, demographic, nutritional, etc. Next, a very good definition given by CDC is, surveillance is the ongoing, systematic collection, analysis and interpretation of health related data for essential to planning, implementation and evaluation of public health practice, closely integrated with timely dissemination of these data to those who are responsible for prevention and control. So, this definition very beautifully shows what exactly surveillance means. Simply, it is collecting certain important data related to the disease for taking any proper action. So, surveillance is information for action. I repeat, information for action. So, action component is included in surveillance. You collect information for action. So, again, what is it? It is the ongoing systematic collection, analysis and interpretation of health related data essential to planning, implementation and evaluation of public health practice, closely integrated with timely dissemination of the data. So, the dissemination of the data must be timely so that proper action can be taken. And to whom we will give this data? For those who are responsible for prevention and control. So, this is what nowadays it is going on. Disease surveillance activity are carried out by the Ministry of Health and Welfare, carried out by our Health Department, Population and Public Health Division and local health districts. Now, surveillance will provide the information related to person, which age, sex and description of the person where the disease is occurring, the place where it is occurring and the time in dates, hours, days, months and years when it is occurring. Now, please look at this picture very carefully. So, the surveillance shows us what is the problem. Our public health approach or public health aim is to go from the problem to any response or action we must take. So, surveillance will tell us what is the problem From there we can identify the risk factors to know what is the cause of the problem, and we can move to intervention. We can intervene or evaluate what intervention, find out what intervention works, and finally we can implement. That is the how do we implement the activities and giving the response. That is the response. This is how we move from a health problem to a response. Now, role of surveillance. Remember, surveillance is the best weapon to avert any epidemic or control any epidemic. It gives a early warning system for the impending public health emergencies. It documents the impact of an intervention or track the progress towards specified goals, measuring efficacy of control measure. It monitor and clarify the epidemiology to allow priorities to be set to formulate policies. It helps in understanding the natural history of the disease. It decides the level of existence of the disease. It also explains the change in pattern of the disease with time. It identifies the changes in the agent characteristics, and it also used for forecasting the disease trends. So, surveillance is the best weapon to avert any epidemic. Now moving on to certain other concepts of disease control, elimination and eradication. Now what do we understand by disease control? Disease control means which are the ongoing operations aimed at reducing the incidence, duration of the disease, risk of transmission, effects of the infection on physical and psychosocial complication, and reducing the financial burden to the community. So it focuses on primary and secondary prevention. Disease control is aimed at reducing the incidence, duration or burden of the disease. Here the agent persists at a level which ceases to be such that the disease ceases to be a public health problem according to the tolerance of the local population. Actually, an equilibrium occurs between the agent, host and environment in case of disease control. Now, disease elimination means interruption of transmission. It is usually related to the local or regional elimination, that is from a specified group of population, from a country or political jurisdiction, etc. Disease elimination is the intermediate in the spectrum of disease control and eradication. Now what is disease eradication? It is means extermination or termination of all infectious agent through surveillance and containment. That is, the agent will not persist. Here is tearing out by the roots. It is absolute process, all or none phenomena. It is not any relative phenomena like a control or elimination. Elimination in one country might not be a control method in another country. It is not a eradication. The diseases which are eradicated till now are smallpox. Others which are eradicated are yaws, dracunculiasis, then type 2 wild poliovirus, etc. Now with this I end my class for today. Please understand and the concepts very carefully. This will be very important in understanding your individual diseases as you go through the infectious epidemiology classes, and also understanding the investigation of epidemic, why we need it and how to do it. Thank you.